graduates, family, and friends. While writing this speech, I began to think, expectations are a funny thing. For instance, right now, most of you are expecting me, the valedictory speaker, to recite a lofty quote by Benjamin Franklin or John Marshall, Karl Marx, or even Groucho Marx. But today, for reasons that shall soon become apparent, I have decided to begin by quoting a slightly less well-known source, but one who I believe to be nearly as insightful. Namely, my very own father, who often says, the best of educations meet all of your expectations, but in the most surprising of ways. By that definition, Calabasas High School has consistently provided me and all of the class of 2013 with the very best of educations. Entering these hallowed halls 4 long years ago, we all had our vague ideas regarding what to expect. We expected to read some Shakespeare. We expected to study the Civil War. And yes, we expected to dissect a frog. Today, as our Calabasas experience reaches its culmination, I realize that our school is not only the ideal place to learn everything we initially expected, but also a noble institution that fosters personal growth through life lessons. I invite you now to join me for a typical Calabasas school day in order to prove my point. I'll just trust you're all following the Calabasas dress code. Period 1, English. We all expected to fight duels on the streets of Verona and to share a raft on the Mississippi with Huck Finn and Jim. We also all knew that we'd be memorizing the web address for SparkNotes. However, we were all surprised to learn that seemingly daunting tasks like reading a 200-page paper about 14th century visions of hell, researching a 10-page opinion paper for our ISPs, or for me, writing and delivering this speech for you all here today, can be accomplished. Period 2, science. The lessons learned from our science classes extend far beyond learning to make the dinner table request, "Mom, can you please pass the sodium chloride?" For instance, when combining a bit too much potassium with just the right amount of boiling water, we have learned to accept the consequences of our actions when the ensuing reaction invariably results. On to period 3, history. Not surprisingly, the Boston Tea Party, the evils of segregation, and the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke, not the band, will be ingrained in our memories forever. But we have also studied the famous George Santana quote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Fortunately, we Calabasas history buffs will never be condemned to such a fully avoidable fate. Period 4, math. Sharpen your pencils and get out your calculators. Depending on our levels of study, we students expected to master daunting tasks, ranging from finding the volume of an irregular cone in geometry to solving implicit differential equations in calculus. What we were surprised to discover, given math's reputation as a solitary subject, was how easily we coyotes could unite to master even the most demanding of topics. Period 5, Espagnol y Francais. In language class, no one was surprised to learn the perfunctory "Hola, me llamo Chloe," or "Bonjour, je m'appelle Chloé." Excuse my pronunciation. But as we did so, we also learned that the languages of Cervantes and Montesquieu have just as much to offer as that of Shakespeare and Twain. Period 6. Put your books in your locker, because our last period on today's schedule is devoted to non-academic pursuits, and are surprised to discover just how much of our education occurred outside the confines of the traditional classroom. How else do we explain the spirit of our sports programs? It is widely held that in life, we learn far more from our failures than our successes. If that is so, and I believe that it is, Calabasas High must have some of the most educated sports teams in California. No, we can't consistently brag about the records of each of our sports teams, we are always proud of the student athletes who play on them and represent all Coyotes with such endless reservoirs of dedication, determination, and pride, regardless of what the scoreboard might indicate. That said, it is through the surprisingly wide array of extracurricula here at Calabasas High that each of us has found our own individual niche within our diverse and talented student body. From our jazz A-band performing at the Hollywood Bowl for the Playboy Jazz Festival, to our girls basketball team reaching the CIF Southern Section State Finals. Exactly. It's safe to say that we are a gifted and giving bunch, ready and able to face all of the fresh challenges that our lives hold in store for us. The big question begging to be answered is, how will we meet these challenges? Will we act as expected? Or will we, in the best traditions of Calabasas High, exceed all expectations? I suspect that we shall all rise to surprise. That trait has been spliced to our educational DNA from the very first day we entered Calabasas High. For it is only by reaching higher that each of us may aspire to fulfill our potential and accomplish our goals. And if, one day, one or any number of us should write a bestseller, win a Nobel Prize, garner an Academy Award, or discover a cure for cancer, I, for one, can honestly say that I expect that I would not be surprised. Thank you, and go Coyotes!
Excellent job. And now our next speaker is a salutatorian speaker, Brooke. What are